Hey mamas, it's me, Holly. I'm coming to talk to you a little bit today about the I don't have time mindset and how that might be keeping you from a more fulfilling life. So just think for a minute about how often you say that phrase, I don't have time. I don't have time for self-care. I don't have time for another thing on my plate. There's just not enough time. I would do X, Y, or Z, but I don't have the time. I know I said it plenty. Sometimes I still say it, catch myself. There are times when this may be legitimately the case, that there's so much going on. Maybe there's a crisis, an emergency, and you have to prioritize what gets done. And it may or may not be taking care of yourself for that period of time. But what happens when we keep that mindset all of the time? And how can we start to shift it a little bit so that we can find the time to take care of ourselves in the way that we need to? So to start with, just think about some of the recent times that you've maybe said that phrase, I don't have enough time. Think about what are the things that you're doing with your day. So how long are you spending on your cell phone scrolling social media or playing a game? How many of the chores or tasks that you're doing around the house could maybe be done by some of your kids or your partner? So are you delegating any of those tasks, or are you taking them all on, or the majority of them on? Are there certain tasks that it might be worth your while to outsource, to pay someone else to do? So it's just something to think about, because oftentimes when we do get stuck in that mindset of, well, I just don't have time, and we repeat it enough, we believe it's fact. And it may not necessarily be true all of the time. In fact, it isn't true all of the time. So one of the reasons that I'm talking to you about this today is because I think it is one of the biggest barriers or obstacles to us having a more fulfilling life for ourselves as mothers, as working moms. Of course, we have a lot on our plates. That's true. We're trying to raise a family and we're working, and it is a lot. And so it can be easy, I think, to deceive ourselves into feeling like there's just not enough time for anything else. So what happens when we start to believe that mindset is we don't actually take the time for ourselves because we don't believe it's there. We are running on fumes because we're not doing enough to take care of ourselves. So our gas tank is empty, and there's only so long we can go running on fumes before the car is going to die, right? And so we're just sort of inching along, trying to keep it going as long as possible. And inevitably, we're going to hit a wall at some point, and we're going to feel like my gas tank is empty. I can't do anymore. I can't. And that's usually when we start snapping at everybody. That's usually when we are feeling exhausted, like we can't do anything else. It's when we feel our highest levels of anxiety and stress. It's when we have difficulty turning off. At the end of the day, we have difficulty relaxing ever, or resting. And all of these things are hard enough on their own, but then they in turn will negatively impact our health, so that our mental health suffers, our physical health suffers. If we have any injury or pain, it's going to increase or get worse. If we're susceptible to any kind of illness, that's going to just increase or get worse. Our immune system gets more and more suppressed the more stress we take on, and the more years we live with chronic stress. So it does take a toll, and those costs add up as well. So when you think about things like, well, I don't have time, or I couldn't afford to pay for so-and-so to do this thing for me so that I did have more time, think about some of the costs already. So if you have spent money on any kind of medical bills for yourself, chiropractor bills because you've had maybe back or hip pain or something else, if you have chronic headaches, if you've tried memberships to gyms or different places that maybe you started off going to and maybe you aren't going anymore, or you aren't going as often as you thought you would. Are you spending money on various online purchases that are sort of impulse buys and they make you feel good for a second and then you're sort of back to feeling the way you felt already? So those things add up over a year or more, and those costs are real. So if we can begin to shift this mindset that we don't have time to take care of ourselves, we just don't have the time in the day, and start to make the time in whatever ways we have to, like, again, whether that's paying somebody to do certain tasks like clean our house, or something else that we feel like maybe someone else could do relatively easily, maybe not cost a fortune, but it would give us back another hour of our day, for example. If those things can be done, if we can shift that mindset, we can actually fill that gas tank back up again and feel like we have the time and the energy to do more things that are fun, to feel like we can enjoy our lives more, connect more with our families, have more quality time rather than feeling annoyed or irritated by the needs of our family members or friends. And all of this just comes back to this mindset. And so while it may sound simple, I recognize it's not straightforward. It's not simple. Maybe it's straightforward, but it's not simple in terms of anytime we have to make a change in the way we think about things, it's going to take consistent effort for a while before that does actually shift. So maybe think about, what would it take for you to start thinking in that way? What would it take for you to maintain that belief that you would be able to prioritize or make the time for yourself? Would you need support around that? Would it be helpful if you and a friend made an agreement that you were going to do this and you held each other accountable? Think about what it would take, because I'm telling you, this mindset is holding you back. It's not helping and it's not true. It is very rare that we live a life where we literally don't have any time for ourselves ever. And if that's the case, oftentimes we can point back to a way that we structured it so that we didn't have the time, not necessarily consciously or intentionally, but we've set it up that way. And so we feel like we can't do anything about it, but in actuality, we can. There are some things we can change, or there are some things we can move around, or the things we can reprioritize. So that's your challenge for today. I want you to think about your mindset around, I don't have time. Specifically, I don't have time for self-care or soul nourishing activities or anything that gives me a chance to relax and recharge my batteries or fill up my gas tank, however you want, whatever metaphor you want to use. And start to think about, what would it feel like if you could shift that mindset to, I make the time. I make the time for myself, for my care and well-being, so that I can fill up my gas tank and have more enjoyable experiences in whatever else I do in my life. All right, well, that's all I've got for you today. I think that's enough. I hope it's helpful. I would love to hear some comments, some feedback below, but yeah, keep at it. I know being a mom, working hard it's hard. It's hard work for all of us. And I want you to be able to believe that things can get more enjoyable, that they don't have to be overwhelming and exhausting all the time. There is a way out of that. And it starts with some of these mindset changes. So thanks for showing up today for yourself. Like I said, I hope it was helpful, and I will talk with you again soon. All right, bye.